Former Sixer head coach, now with NBC Sports Philadelphia. Sixers pre- and post-game. You can see that on NBC Sports Philadelphia tonight. With my next guest here on the Boardwalk on the Hotline, Jimmy Lynam joins me now on 97.3 ESPN. Coach, welcome back. How you been, man?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk to you. I want to try to pick your brain a little on, number one, you had the 6-day layoff, and then you played Monday night, and now you got a 2-day layoff going into this game. I guess as a coach, you got to be pacing around, wishing your team had a little bit more action. Wouldn't you think so?
I think most coaches and players, Mike, when you get to playoff time, they get into the groove of playing one day, off the next, playing the following. And that will – TV is what, like, throws a wrench into that type of schedule. So once after tonight, you'll be playing every other day through the rest of this series. But that's what both the players and coaches would prefer.
Yeah, and now you have a Sixer team that has to wait around this extra day. Now they'll play tonight. If you're Brett Brown looking at the film of that team Monday night, what is your adjustment for Game 2?
Well, I think the adjustments will be subtle in nature. I think, Brett, if you listen to his post-game comments, and I would have agreed wholeheartedly, I didn't really need them. I knew what he was going to say. It was one of their worst games of the year, plain and simple. If you choose to give the Celtics some credit for that, so be it. But at both ends of the court, it was not the Sixer team that you've been watching for the last 2 to 3 months. And I say that meaning that there were blow-bys at the defensive end where somebody's matched up against the player and the Boston offensive guy just drove right by him and laid the ball up. Or at the offensive end, I know they didn't make the three-point shot. That's just one of those things. But it wasn't the way they've been playing offense. And to me, the most dramatic example of that was the way that they reverted to using Embiid, throwing the ball to him, a lot of one-on-one by Joe, who did a good job. He scored 30 points and made more than half his shots. But that's not the way the Sixers play, that much isolation basketball. They lost their rhythm and their flow. Not enough movement, not enough passing.
Coach, you look at the personnel that Boston has out there and what they're trying to do. A lot of pick-and-roll stuff with Horford, letting him kind of bounce around. And I guess the question is, do the Sixers need to make some changes on the defensive end of the floor with the personnel that Boston has? Because they're a little undermanned, they're trying to be more strategic on how they use some of these guys.
Well, I think I had said pre-game that if Boston has a chance, the one thing you can count and take to the bank is they're going to shoot a lot of threes. They shot 36. That's a lot of threes, particularly for Boston. I mean, they're a very, very good three-point shooting team. I think they were second in the regular season. But that counts Kyrie Irving's contribution. He's a 40% three-point shooter. They don't have him. And they didn't have Jaylen Brown, who's up like 39%, which is a high percentage. So they're still real good, yes. But you have to have the expectation, if you're the Sixers, that Boston's going to rely on that three-point shot. So how do you then neutralize some of that? I think a bit more switching on the pick and roll. Horford is certainly capable of making threes. And I think Terry Rozier, you have to accept the fact he's gotten a lot better. He's not going to make 7 out of 9
right,
the way he did the other night, but he's a much improved player. And if you look at the big picture, I don't think Jaylen Brown plays tonight. They essentially have 3 scorers. I don't know if you saw this, but somebody tweeted this on our postgame show. The 83 points scored by Rozier, Horford, and Tatum. You ready?
Yeah.
It surpassed in total number the scoring exploits of Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett.
Right.
3 future Hall of Famers when they were in Boston never totaled as many as 83 points. And that blew my mind. That is a telling statement beyond belief. Trust me, we can do. If I was talking to my team, that's what I would have. I'd have a big old, I'd have a magic marker on a blank sheet of paper, and I'd write those 3 names. And real small, I'd write never 83 points. And I'd go, the players say, what does that say? Here, dude, come up and read it. But we let those 3 guys get 83. Are you serious? Come on.
Coach Jimmy Lynam, NBC Philadelphia. Shot quality, Coach, is more sustainable than shot making. Do you agree? And would you say that the quality of shots the Sixers got should make you feel pretty good as opposed to hoping Boston can make the same amount of shots?
Yeah, that's a terrific point. You're right on, Mike. Shot percentage, what you shoot percentage-wise over the long haul, and a 7-game series against the same team is long haul. Your percentage is going to be based in direct proportion to the quality of your shots. Can you some nights just go crazy and throw, we've seen Bellinelli have nights like that. Rozier had one the other night. Sure, on an occasion. It's not going to happen. If you go back to the previous series when Dwayne Wade beat the Sixers at the Wells Fargo Center in Game 2, I looked in the camera after the game and said, I love Wade. I think Wade was a terrific player, a lock Hall of Famer. Is he going to do this again? Don't even guess it. No, that's not who he is anymore. He can jump out of the box for one time, but you just hit it right on the head. Quality of shot over the long haul. Overall, the Sixers got, and I watched it a second time, they got a reasonably good quality of shot. Yes, Boston did a pretty good job. They were very conscious of trying to get to the 3 line, but if the Sixers get the same quality of shot in tonight's game, trust me, they're going to shoot a lot higher than 19%.
Okay, Coach, the sum of the parts teams, the teams that are filled with some good players but don't have the great player, versus a team that has those 2 stars. You got Embiid, you got Simmons. A lot of times, the sum of the parts team can fight and give you a battle, but the best team wins. My question is, are the Sixers the better team? And essentially, that will play out.
I think they are. Were they the better team the other night? No, they weren't.
No.
But I'll go back and say that rest versus rust, a lot of people were, it was a topical conversation. And whether the rust was a factor, I can't honestly say. All I know is that's not the Sixer team I've been watching. That's not the way they play at either end of the court. And was that a little inexperience? Did they panic a little bit? Again, these are questions that are not easy to answer. But I really have a high expectation that in tonight's game, the Sixers will play the way they've been playing. Does that guarantee you a win? No. But it certainly increases your chances dramatically.
Now, the other night they fed Embiid. They just kept going to him. And the Celtics essentially said, we're making threes. We'll go 3 for 2. If you're the Sixers, do you go back to that with Embiid, thinking that they're not going to make as much, or do you go with what brought you to the dance and start bombing away and hoping that you're the team that shoots for a higher percentage because you were getting some quality looks?
Well, obviously, I love the idea of utilizing Embiid because they don't have the Celtics have no one to guard him. And the fact that he scored the 31 points, made more than half his shots, attests to that. But you have to be careful of not falling into a trap of doing that too frequently where it gets you stagnant. And I think that was one of the problems. Brett Brown said, we lost our rhythm. You heard several of the players, including Ben Simmons, use that word, rhythm. We weren't playing with our normal rhythm. And sometimes what happens when you try to pinpoint and use a mismatch too frequently, it kind of brings you to a grinding halt in terms of movement, both player movement and ball movement. And one of the things I loved about the Sixers offense, let's say since the first of the year, they had a tremendous combination of having all the guys involved, but still being able to utilize the talents of both Simmons and Embiid. They have to get back to that tonight.
Yeah, and Coach, if Ben Simmons, 7 turnovers in Game 1, if he was one of your problems in Game 1, I got to feel pretty good that kid is not going to give me, and you say a bad effort. It was not an awful effort. He just had the 7 turnovers. He still scored 18 points. But if he was one of my big problems, I feel pretty good that he's not going to give me 2 clunkers in a row.
Yeah, right on. And I agree with you, Mike. I certainly wouldn't call it a clunker, that he turned the ball over in the first quarter in particular. And I think that may have been a little frustration, a little inexperience. This is his, second playoff series as a rookie. And give Boston credit, and you can expect this. They will do a much better job than your average team who is maybe coming in off a back-to-backer or just read a scouting report. This is now playoff. The preparation is much more intense. The Celtics will do a better job getting people back. They'll have 5 guys back on most occasions. So Ben won't get as many of those drives. I call it the drive from the backcourt. Where from 70 feet, he starts, he's going pretty strong, and as soon as he crosses half court, I say it's like birds flying through trees. These great players, they have internal radar, and they sense it before they see it, and they just drop their head, and it's like a freight train coming at you. Those opportunities, boss, that's the key for Boston, to limit them. So Ben won't get as many, but he'll still look for his spot,
right.
But he has to do it without getting frustrated and trying to force the issue.
Yeah, and we know Ben doesn't need as many. I mean, if he scores 8, and he has 14 assists, you're okay with that because he sets somebody else up, essentially. Coach Jimmy Lynam's with us. If Joel Embiid's on the floor and Baines isn't out there, who do you defend with Joel Embiid?
You mean who does Joel guard?
Yeah, who would you have him defend if Baines is not on the floor? I guess essentially if Horford's out there and Morris is out there, that's the problem is what you do with him. And they kept exploiting one guy every time because somebody was kind of guarding somebody that they weren't really matched up well with.
Yeah, see, it's not a matchup problem, Mike. It's a scheme problem. Joel Embiid can guard anybody out there if you want to know the truth. He can guard Tatum. It's no big deal.
Right.
Joel Embiid has tremendous lateral quickness. It's about scheme. And I think I've been back and forth to the shore doing something each day this week, and I heard you one afternoon. So the play I'm going to refer to, I think you talked about. It was either late third or in the fourth quarter, probably fourth, and it was a high pick and roll in the center of the court with Sean Larkin.
Right, Shane Larkin.
Horford. Yeah, okay, Shane Larkin, sorry. So Larkin runs the pick and roll, and Embiid has to give help and give Larkin credit. He's not the quickest guy in the world, but with his left hand, he penetrates deep. And what that served to do is drag Embiid all the way down to the basket area. Larkin makes a terrific pass with his left hand straight up the lane into three-point land to Horford. And I kind of made a wise guy joke. Mike, you were closer in rotating to Al Horford from South Jersey than any Sixer in the Boston Garden. Okay, that has nothing to do with Embiid's lack of quickness, bad matchup. It's scheme. Give Boston credit for having a good scheme. So now it's incumbent upon the Sixers. What do you do when they run pick and roll like that?
Yeah.
So to do what they did, obviously you better be ready to hope that Horford's going to miss an open three. And that's not going to happen. That guy's a very good three-point shooter. So the Sixers will adjust. They'll either make a little switch like that, or they'll open up, and Embiid will open up and let the guy go under. If Larkin wants to shoot, a three-point jumper or a long two, so be it. But you don't want Horford to have that shot. I'll go back to the point. They only have 3 scorers. I mean, big-time scorers. Guys capable of getting 25. Shane Larkin is not one of them.
I'll ask you this. I know as a coach, we talked about this before, I think, Coach, trust. If you don't trust your guy, you're not going to go to him. I guess Fultz at this point, Brown doesn't have enough of a trust in to use him, but would he be a guy that would help them in this series, with what his skill set brings, or do you think that ship has sailed?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think there's a possibility. I'm going to say it that way. And the reason I'm going to say it is that Fultz brings athleticism, and that would serve the Sixers well, a little bit more athleticism. I think it's a little overstated when people talk about all this Boston perimeter athleticism. I'll start out with the fact I love Jason Tatum. He's a terrific young player. You ready? He's an average athlete, not a big-time athlete. And just watch him. It's plain and simple. Watch how he moves. I would say Rozier's a very good athlete, and although he's nowhere near as good a player, Marcus Smart is a big-time athlete. You have to be careful who you refer to in an athletic sense. But having said that, I do think that Fultz, there's no question he's athletic. And if the game, if for whatever reason you feel, I don't like the way we're playing, this is like we're running in mud type of thing. A coach senses that kind of thing. And you need what you call a change of pace kind of guy. Like, by way of example, Justin Anderson and TJ brought some of that in the Miami series. And I think Fultz, I would not cross him out as a possibility if things are not going well as this series moves forward.
All right, Game 2 tonight, 8:30. You can hear it right here on 97.3 ESPN. What time, Coach, is your guys' coverage beginning on NBC?
Yeah, we're doing a 1-hour pregame show, so our show starts at 7:30.
Okay, 7:30 for the TV guys. If you're still in the car, we'll have the game for you at 8:30. Coach, great breakdown. We enjoyed talking to you as always.
Yeah, anytime, Mike. My pleasure. I enjoy it as well.